Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, welcome to the Girl George and the Dragons radio show. This is Girl George. My 70th birthday is going to be in about 3 days. So, happy birthday to me. Anyhow, we're going to do a show about my family. I've got a family that used to play music back in the 1800s, so I'm not the first in the line. Going back, my great-grandfather was named James DeMoss. And he had his whole family playing music, his wife and his 5 kids, and then he got married again, had 2 more kids, and they played too. But they played for 50 years, and they toured in a stagecoach. So if you think you got it rough touring, try it in a stagecoach and a covered wagon sometime. So we're going to talk to my cousin Pat. She's a historian on family histories, and she teaches the subject, and she's studied it, so we can ask her all about the DeMoss family. Hi, Pat. What you doing?
How you doing? I'm glad to be here.
When did James? Where does James come from? My great-grandfather. Where does he come from?
Well, he was born in Indiana in 1857, and he was raised in Iowa. And his father, Peter, was a bare-knuckle boxer and a steamboat captain, and eventually a minister in the United Brethren Church. And his mother, Elizabeth Stewart, was a former actress and singer, and she also was a minister also. And his parents were very devout Christians, and they wouldn't let him go to dances or parties or anything that wasn't Christian, you know. And they had high principles, and they instilled it in their children.
Okay, so he got married, right? When did he get married? How old was he?
Well, he was, he married in 1862, so he was about 25, I guess. And he married Elizabeth Bonebrake, and her father was also a minister, and had, so she had come from a similar background, and James had studied music, and so he was a music teacher, and she was actually also a music teacher. And
did you know coming down from her line, the break bone, is that Bonebrake?
Bonebrake, yeah.
Okay, there is a band in LA, a punk band called X, and their drummer is named DJ Bonebrake. And I asked his wife if she was related to him, and she said yes. So we have some relatives that are also punks.
Yeah. Anyways, James was had gone to college and studied music and religion, and he was very intellectual person too. Besides being very musical.
What sign was he? What was his birthday?
Huh? Pardon?
What was his birthday?
The
month, the day.
I'm not really sure right now. I just have the year written down.
Okay, when did he go to Oregon? How did that come about? And how did they get there? On a covered wagon?
Well, he had become a minister, and they decided to go and minister to the people in the West in 1862. And so they got on a wagon train, and at night they would entertain people with their guitars. And when they got to Oregon, they stopped first at Baker City, Oregon, and then helped found the city of Powder, Oregon. And they built a toll bridge across the river, and then they had a sawmill.
Didn't they build some of the first churches and schools in Oregon?
Yes, they do. And
where was that at? Was that in Potterville, or where was that at?
That was in over there in Forest Cove and Baker City and stuff like that. And he would hold, work all night in the sawmill, and then they'd have camp meetings at night, and then Sunday he'd preach church services. Very energetic person.
He was a very busy boy. And then he had 5 kids with Elizabeth. Now, how did he start getting them to play music and start playing with the whole family and touring with them? How'd that happen?
Well, he was a circuit preacher and going through Oregon and Washington and giving concerts with his little band of family. And then in 1872, there was a Reverend Hines says he should go east and share the gospel. So Reverend Hines gave him an organ, and so he talked it over with his family, and they got a program up. And they had started in 1872 on their first tour.
So how did they tour? Was it in covered wagon, or was that when they bought that stagecoach?
That was in the covered wagon. And they didn't get the stagecoach until about 1897, I think. But the stagecoach was from Hank Monk, who was a famous stage driver for Ben Holiday, doing transcontinental stage runs,
So I've seen references in some of the stuff of theirs where Buffalo Bill Cody is saying, "Oh, you should go see the show," and some of the presidents, and I heard they played for the Queen and everyone later on.
Yeah,
they went over to Europe.
Yeah, Buffalo Bill was a personal friend of James DeMoss for about 10 years. And when Buffalo Bill started to get his show together, he asked and his family to be in the show, and then he also asked James to be the music director, but James is more into the gospel stuff, so he turned him down. And they were personal friends, and James would sit there and talk to Buffalo Bill about religion, and Buffalo Bill would just sit there and sip his whiskey. And Elizabeth just couldn't understand why James would like him because, here he was a sinner, But James always says he could find things good in him, so.
Okay, George. George is one of his kids.
Yeah.
Let's name the kids. And how?
Okay, there was Henry, George.
Henry's the oldest. Henry is the oldest.
Pardon? Henry was the oldest. Henry?
Okay, then George,
Lizzie, Minnie, and May.
Okay, when was Henry born?
Henry was born in 1860.
What about George?
He was born in 1866.
Now, I think George was a Gemini, wasn't he? Playing 2 horns and playing 2 guitars and juggling them. He's the one I really identify with.
Yeah. One of them, I'm not sure which one it was, but, George was the one that would play the 2 cornets, the alto and the cornet at the same time, and then he would even triple tongue it on both of them, and he could play like a one tune on one and another one tune on the other at the same time. Very talented,
I read that he also played 2 guitars at the same time, would juggle them and go from one to the other.
That's right. And he would have them up above his head, and he would be playing the guitar. I can understand. I would love to have seen that, But
I
anyway,
guess Hendrix could have learned some stuff from him.
Yeah, and May was the youngest, and when she sang on stage, the miners would throw money at her because she was such a sweet little thing, And whenever they performed, they always looked their best. They always had really good clothes. Mother insisted on that. And
did she make all the clothes? Did Mother make all the clothes?
No, they bought them. And they just make sure that they would have the best clothes on, because they wanted to make a good impression. And often the boys would perform in. I mean, the men later on they would perform in tuxedos.
Yeah. So when was the girls born?
Oh, okay. The girls were born in. Okay, Lizzie. Let's see. Lizzie was born in 1866.
Okay, so they all played instruments, right?
In all, they played total 41 different instruments.
Wow.
And they were child prodigies, and they were, whenever they played, they were much in demand. And when they go back to someplace, they were welcomed like family. People would have them stay in their homes, and they stayed in the best homes too. And in fact, they stayed 5 nights with Adlai Stevenson, who was at that time the Vice President of the United States. They visited with President McKinley, and like I said, they stayed with Buffalo Bill, and they also were, the high society would have them stay at their house, So they were well liked,
And George did a lot of the publicity, right? Because I've seen some things about how he talks about how you should do your publicity before you go there. You should put it in the store windows and stuff. So he did a lot of that, right?
Yeah, he was he was more like the manager and stuff like that. He was really the impetus to get people and get the family going. I mean, he's the one that had all the energy and stuff like that. And this is a whole family-run thing. Most of the advanced people were family members, like James DeMoss's brother, and later on his nephew. Even when the people came, they changed off into bringing new people into the group. Eventually, they married into the family. So this is all almost entirely family-oriented group,
So how did they end up being the songwriters for the World's Fair? What year was that?
Well, that was in 1893. The World's, I think, was 1893. The governor of Oregon asked them to go for the Columbia Exposition, and so while they were there, they gave 500 concerts in 6 months, and they wrote
Where was that at? Where was the
in Chicago?
The Chicago. Keep going.
And they wrote a songbook with 44 state songs, and whenever they went any place, they always looked at all the sites and everything like that. And they were tourists. They weren't just performers; they were also tourists, And so they actually performed in 5 different world fairs.
5 world fairs. My goodness.
Yeah.
So how did they end up in Europe? When did they go to Europe?
Well, in 1897, they went to Europe. Well, and they went over to England, and they went to the Royal Academy of Music and took classes. And the teachers said that they actually learned more from the kids than they did from them teaching them. And they graduated with honors. And while they were there, George's cello teacher arranged for George to have a personal audience with, all of them, to have a personal audience with the Queen Victoria.
Wow.
And apparently she was learning how to play the cello, and she let George play her personal cello for them during their performance.
Cool. great. That's great. Good old George.
Yeah. So
anyway, somewhere along the way, the first wife dies. You know, they have 5 kids, and they're all touring and stuff. And the first wife dies. Then he marries a second wife, which is my great grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he has 2 more kids, which you know, the second one of that is my grandmother. You know, so how did that happen?
Well, they were touring in Iowa, and he married Julia in Iowa, and then the rest of the family went on touring, and then he had a brief honeymoon, and then they met up in St. Louis. And then a couple of years later, he had John, and then a couple of years later after that, he had Ruth.
Which is my grandmother.
Yes. And so when they started having kids, the remaining 4 children went off and started touring as like DeMoss family bards. And James pretty much stayed home. He did a lot of the advanced work for the family. He started developing Deas Springs and into a town, and he started a newspaper, and he did a publishing company for their songs and stuff like that. Pretty much, and he did some circuit riding to the towns, and then he would take his children, and they would perform too in that. So they actually kind of split into 2 groups. One was doing the international stuff, and then the rest were doing pretty much the local stuff, you know.
So there was a town named after him, right? The DeMoss?
Yeah, Deas Springs. In 1882.
And then that ended up being a state park rather than a town, right? Now. Yes.
What happened was they wanted the kids and the mother wanted a home because they got tired of 10 years on the road. And James wanted to stay in San Francisco, but somebody told him about this nice grassy valley. And so they went and filed on it and laid it out for a town. And it was a prohibitionist town, no liquor allowed. A couple of the store people wanted to come in there, but when they found out that no liquor, they left. And anyways, they had a school, and it was a regular, almost, at one time it was almost going to be the county seat, but they lost out by 4 votes. And so anyways, this town was, small, but it was mostly family. It did have other outsiders, but it did have a lot of family. And
so we checked with the college up there and asked if they had any material on the DeMoss family, and they said that we have like 20 cubic feet of stuff on them.
Yeah.
They have a whole bunch of stuff on them up there.
Yeah. The university at Eugene, Oregon, has a large collection of things like photos and diaries and all that stuff. And then the Benton County Museum in Oregon has their stagecoach and an exhibit on them too, and with some of their memorabilia. And just another place I just read on the internet that has a few things too. So up in Oregon, I guess they're quite famous.
Yeah. So Deas Springs is still there, which is a park, right?
Yes, it's a park, and I think the family home is still there. The Moss family actually lost it through back taxes and mortgages and stuff like that, and then Ruth's brother John went and saved up his money and bought it back. So it's still great. In the family.
That's great.
And
so I'm still carrying on the music part.
Okay.
I have a couple nephews that are musicians too. Bonnie's son is a guitar player, and they play every week.
Yeah.
And Marilyn's son Dougie plays
Yeah.
with him. He plays bass with him. So those two
Yeah.
are working musicians that play every week up in Clear Lake and up around there. So I'm sure there's some other. I think Mabel's daughter's kid are musicians now. So that's like
Yeah.
a couple of generations down. I think Elena's kids have started playing music now.
Henry
So
DeMoss.
somebody's still carrying on. Huh?
You know, Henry DeMoss, he had 3 children, Homer, Beulah, and Evelyn. And Homer played with the band when the DeMoss singers, but Beulah and Evelyn didn't really do it, but they were very musically inclined in their own, and they became like concert in orchestras. You know, they were in orchestras and stuff like that, and they were, even though they didn't really tour with the family, you know, and even some of their descendants are musically inclined too. So, you know, a lot of these people, fourth and fifth generations, they're still playing music, you know.
Well, a lot of it is the names change because the girls, of course, take on their husband's name, so you lose them in the name.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, they after they stopped touring in 1933, they actually were on the road for 60 years, and
wow.
Yeah, from 1872 to 1933. The only reason they stopped touring is, number one, it was the times, and people were going to picture shows instead, and also George DeMoss died. He had just played his 2 cornets thing, and he collapsed on stage and died. So,
what a way to go! Good boy. How old was he?
Well, let's see. He was 67, I think.
Not bad. Right. That's pretty good.
Yeah, about 67. But,
that's the way it goes on stage. Go out with the horns in your mouth.
Yeah, they say that probably he gave about 12,000 performances in his life, you know, and he never missed a performance.
Great, me too.
Yeah, and they, you know, so the remaining DeMosses decided to retire, and they went on to most of them went to Eugene, Oregon, and had like music schools. They taught music, and so anyways, when I first started researching this, I couldn't find anything, but with the internet, all you have to do is type in DeMoss in Oregon, and you get tons of information.
Yeah, that's great. The internet is something fantastic. That's why I figured we should do this show so we have something to put up on YouTube for our grandkids and our great-great-grandkids. And so when they go look it up, they can see all these pictures that I put on there because we've got lots of pictures of them. And they can have a little of the history of them. Yeah. So, you know,
I have some of their music. That I got a copy of the one Sweet Oregon, which Henry Whitten wrote. It was sort of like the unofficial Oregon state song for a while. And someday, if I find somebody can play music, I'm going to have them play it for me.
Yeah, if you could get them to record it, then we can put it up there. We put it up on YouTube.
I'm not musically inclined myself, and
well, I gotta find some. I know a lot of musicians. Get them to do it that can actually read music. I can't read music, but maybe I can get somebody to do that.
Yeah, they were. They even They even wrote their own hymnal. They wrote a lot of their own songs in the hymnal. Probably 2/3 of the hymnal they wrote themselves. Everyone wrote, from Minnie to Lizzie, Henry, George, all of them. And then James wrote a lot of the songs also, and they were.
What about
published,
Elizabeth? Did she write too? The wife?
Yeah, she did, but not to the extent the other ones. Probably the most prolific, actually, was Minnie. Probably she wrote the most.
What about the second wife? Was she musical too?
She was educated at went to college and became a music teacher, but she was no slouch. She could play the piano, and of course her kids had musical inclinations too. So,
well, my grandma, she plays piano and organ and violin.
Yeah. Well, when they toured, James took Ruth and John with her and entertained people, and he would give a little sermon. And he was, later on, he was just a circuit rider, pretty much going from town to town. And but he would take Ruth and John with him,
So it was great talking to you. Our time is almost up. So anyone that's interested, just put the DeMoss Family Bard. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, lyric bards.
The Bards, B-A-R-D-S. The DeMoss Family Bards into any search machine, and you'll get tons and tons of material on these folks, which are my great-grandfather and his family. So that's really cool. So this is for my birthday, so we get something out about the family. It was nice talking to you, Pat.
It's nice talking to you, too.
Is there anything else that we missed?
I don't think so, but, this is up there in Oregon. This is an extremely famous family, and I'm glad that we would be able to share this with the other people too.
Okay, well, this is the Girl George and the Dragons Radio Show saying, see you later, alligator.
Everybody's crazy but me. Everybody's nutty as can be. Forming gangs, waging wars, paint the names upon the door. You against me, us versus them. No communicado, don't give a damn. Our kids in the street are the gross casualty now. Everybody's crazy but me. Everybody's nutty as can be. Raping the oceans with derricks for oil, lusting for money, divvying the spoils, build bigger bombs, store them all up. More bombs, they won't take our stuff. Push the wrong button, we're all history now. Everybody's crazy but me. Everybody's nutty as can be. Swirling out, stark, raving mad, grabbing, gouging, slashing the fed. Once they want a piece and scream to be free. Now everybody's crazy.